Oh, it worked. Oh, that was so exciting. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Next to the Floor Ballroom Dance and Race Roundtable. My name is Harrison. I'm going to be your host for today, as usual. I know that's not anything new and or different. Wicked excited for today's roundtable. Our main focus and topic is going to be, what it means to be in the service industry and what it means to be Black in the service industry. I'm really excited because I am graced with the presence of four incredibly beautiful, talented, intelligent women of color. So not only are we going to learn what it's like to be Black in the service industry, but it's going to be, what it's like to be a woman in the service industry and what it's like to be a Black woman in the service industry. So, bonuses for everyone. So let's take a quick minute or two or three to introduce our panel of guests. So up first, oh my gosh, I love that we can do that. That's so fun. We're using a new streaming service, y'all. We have the ever incredible Jamila.
Hi.
Hello.
So quick intro, we're saying?
Yeah. Tell us a little about yourself, speak your mind.
Oh, well, we're just going to do the intro first. So I was on the last one with you guys. Thank you for having me back. I'm Jamila Buada from the Arthur Murray Carmichael Dance Studio, otherwise known as the Sacramento area in California. I've been in the ballroom industry for 13, 14 years now, and I have been a dancer for longer than that. So there's that.
Yay. Well, thank you for joining us again. I'm so excited to have you here. I know this last roundtable was, I say this all the time, but this last roundtable is actually the first time we've interfaced. I've seen you at like many a competition and things along those lines around the Arthur Murrayverse for the last few years, and so it was really exciting to finally get to talk to you and hear what you have to say. So I'm glad to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Up next, we have the beautiful Alyssa from Connecticut.
Thank you, Harrison. My name's Alyssa Papalardo. I am a newer instructor at the Bloomfield Studio in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I have been there for about a year or so, just over a year. I also work as a food and beverage manager for a hotel. So I am in the service area, which way you flip it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us again. For those of you who don't remember, Alyssa was with us on our very first roundtable way back in, oh gosh, what month are we in now? August? Oh gosh.
We were in June.
It was in June, yes. Which felt like it was 20 years ago with how the year 2020 is going. So up next, also joining us from the first panel that we had is the beautiful Lauren.
Hello, Harrison. Thank you so much for organizing this again. It's delightful to be here and be with these ladies again and to meet Jamila this time on the panel. I got to see you on the last one, but I wasn't there. And I already had the pleasure of being on the round table with Autumn and Alyssa. So it's a huge honor. I am from Arthur Murray, New York, Broadway. I've been teaching there for about 2.5 years now, and I have an additional role there as the event coordinator. So glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again. And then I would, last but certainly not least, she's become a crowd/fan favorite. here, next to the floor enterprises, which it's not really an enterprise, nor is it an LLC. It's just like, something Gary and I like to do on the side. But we have Autumn joining us all the way from Hawaii.
Hello, beautiful people. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I've been dancing for 13, 14 years now. This year feels like it's just dragging on, so I don't know where I am. But my 1 year actually is coming up October 7th, and I would have been with Arthur Murray for 1 year. Woo, over here in Hawaii. So I'm loving it, excited. Yay! Thank you, Harrison, for organizing this. And I'm super excited. Can't wait to talk with you ladies and let's have awesome conversations. So yeah.
Awesome. I should probably introduce myself aside from saying my name is Harrison. Hello, everyone. My name is Harrison. I'm a dance instructor here in the Boston studio. I have been a ballroom dancer, I don't know, for 9-10 years now. 11 years. Ooh, wow. I've been teaching ballroom dance, I know, for 8, looking over there. Yeah, I know. I've been teaching for just over 8 years. I've been dancing since I was 8. And I am wicked excited to be able to bring this panel together. The very first panel that we did came out of a need/desire to just be heard. It was, in the weeks following the murder of George Floyd and kind of the final straw that kind of broke the camel's back for Black people and kind of the country as a whole, as far as, civil rights and the Black Lives Matter movement. And so that first panel came at that time so we could kind of just air our grievances and our feelings as Black people. And it's very, I don't want to say ironic, nor do I want to say fortuitous, but it comes at this particular panel comes at another very important moment in this current wave of the civil rights movement, after the events that have happened in the past 2 weeks in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with Jacob Blake, and then the shootings that happened in Kenosha during the Black Lives Matter protests. And so I wanted to start this roundtable just by kind of going around and I guess just asking everyone like how you're doing and how you're feeling, what your thoughts are. Because I know for me personally, this week mentally has been very, very draining and frustrating and tiring, for lack of better words, just because, here we are again, having the same conversations with the same people, dealing with, friends, people, acquaintances who are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. You're important. We need to make systematic changes across the board, XYZ, here, there, blah, 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 a couple months ago. And then since then have been silent and not said anything, and then are continuing to play that silent card. So there you go. There's your topic to begin with. That's a big one. So whoever wants to take the floor with that, go ahead. Say your piece, Alyssa.
So I definitely agree with that feeling of exhaustion and being tired. It's definitely more of an emotional thing and not a physical thing, with everything that's happened overall in the past few months. And then especially the fact that it's obviously still happening, and within the past week or two, same situations and the same lack of justice. It's very discouraging. to me. I find it extremely discouraging. I'm stubborn enough to keep fighting, and I know better, and so I do keep fighting. But as alluded to, like months ago, I felt like we had a bigger support system, and it's not to say that that support system isn't there from colleagues or coworkers or friends or family members. I think everybody is still trying to navigate this whole pandemic. A lot of businesses have reopened, so people's attention is getting pulled in several directions. And I think it's just imperative that like we remember to focus on everything. And unfortunately, I hate saying to like split ourselves up, but make sure you dedicate time to things, to social causes. And, we all get it. We're all trying to figure out COVID and whatnot, but this is also a legitimate matter of life and death for a lot of us. So I wish people would continue to take it as seriously as we did when we first started.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jamila.
So I have a quite a bit to say, but I do want to start off with acknowledging that after this current shooting, the men and the women of the NBA and the WNBA and the NFL actually said, we're not going to play. Yeah, they did something. They did something huge that, it's their paychecks that are at risk. They actually stopped games. I'm just like, can you see how big that is? So right. I do think we do have support, but for the first time we have bigger support. We're losing a little support because people don't know what to do. And I feel like at this point, clarity of what we needs to be very, very, very clear. This is a voting year.
Yeah.
They have just for the first time in the history of Black people passed a no lynching law in the House. But the Senate hasn't passed a single thing that everyone has been asking for. So senators are in the hot seat right now, which means Republicans like Mitch McConnell, who are up for re-election this year, can get voted out because they don't want to change it. I don't care what we do or scream in the street. If you do not vote new senators and new Congress people in for your state, and every state has a different amount of congressmen who have different amount of power in the House and in the Senate. And we have to pay attention. They have found ways. The USPS main guy is a Trump supporter, and he has taken away a lot of the ability to send in a mail-in ballot. And for some reason, they're putting it on the Democrats, which makes no freaking sense. I don't care what representative you are, but if you're losing the right to vote, pay attention and find a way to get your vote back into count. Because if you don't do it, if you don't vote, we are going to be in this position until we die. And at the rate we're going, we might not be here tomorrow. Saying. So, I mean, it might be tomorrow. And that might be it. Every single person you see on this panel might not exist tomorrow if you don't vote today. And when it comes up, November is it for so many people. And we can change the entire thing. Everything people are protesting against and the redirection is all comes up to this vote. And it can make a huge difference. And the trajectory of people living that you see every day. I cannot be here tomorrow if you don't vote by November. That's the craziest thing you have to think about. People you don't think are at risk. I thought when women started dying that people would change. I thought people are always been afraid of Black men, but when Black women came out, I thought, oh, that's going to make a huge difference. But Rita Thomas still hasn't gotten her freaking guys to go to jail yet. If anyone looks up the police report, it actually doesn't even say there was an incident with her body. They didn't even put it in the report. No one's bothering to actually, you have to vote to make the changes happen. And I do think the defund the police title is a horrible, horrible title. If you actually read it, it says they want to put more money in the communities to strengthen the communities to take the pressure off the cops. So if you look at the wording and not just the titles, people will see that it's for the better of all people and not just to make one group look weaker so that everyone else could be stronger. And I wish that people would pay attention to how we are packaging the information and really, really get that across. You need to vote. And you need to vote. And you need to say, every senator in your state to do their job. And if they don't do their job, vote them out. And don't just vote the Black person. As much as I love my Black people, not every Black person is on the side of saving lives. They're on the side of making their money. People want to make money, I get it, but there are some people who are saying that this isn't a real thing. And this is a real freaking thing. How dare you sit there and turn on people who need you to help them live? So read who they are, learn who they are, and vote those people in to help save our lives for tomorrow. Demand more. Demand more. That's it. That's what you can do. Look at it. Because we're going to keep dying until you vote. That was really wanted to get that out.
You better speak on it, though.
Every single one of us in this panel could be dead tomorrow because nobody voted in November when it mattered.
Yeah. And, I think the scary reality there is, for me at least, especially seeing a lot of the reaction to quite literally any time a Black person has been killed in the last name an amount of time, I think about like my life. If that were me, what would they try to dig up on me to justify my death?
Right. We're not angels. Ain't nobody here perfect. But you're telling me that it comes down to you stopping me and being alive or being dead. There's no middle ground.
There's no middle ground.
That guy walked through and shot 3 people, walked to the cops, and went freaking home. How does a 17-year-old shoot 3 people and walk home and get arrested the next day? I don't care who you are. That is not the same. I mean, and he has a big old freaking rifle
in the same place that you just shot someone for trying to get into their car.
But then there's also the open carry laws that he crossed state lines. He was a minor and technically can't open carry no matter what state you're in, to my understanding.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So then your mother drove you to go with this group of people.
Yep.
And cross state lines, commit this crime, and then you went back home. So you're just checking off, laws to disobey. And then you walk home.
But he made it home. And that's the thing. And he made it home. And this guy couldn't even get something out of his car for his son's birthday. It was his son's birthday. You know that? He was going to get stuff for him. And they shot him in the back 7 times.
Yep.
I mean, if you are going to get an animal who is running wild in the street, they would tranquilize them first. They would get a net. They would get something. They don't immediately shoot an animal. If someone just shot the animal, everybody would be in an uproar. We can't even get treated with the same decency that they would do to pick up a wild animal at your home. It's a freaking animal. And we can't even get the same respect as people.
Yep. And I think, I know, I have so much there's so much to say about this, because it honestly boggles my mind that we as people are so quick to try to justify that murder, or justify fortunately he didn't die, he is paralyzed.
Yes, he's paralyzed.
But we're so quick to try to justify it by saying he was he had sexual assault charges or a warrant out for his arrest, or blah, 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 blah. He had a knife on him.
He had a knife in the car.
There was a knife in his car, or there was, a gun in his car. Okay, cool. That's all well and good. Yet we're not applying those same optics.
Well,
why can we not apply those same optics to somebody who literally just shot 3 people in the street?
It's
the argument that is made, it was self-defense, he was being attacked. Well, I mean, we say all the time, if the police are in schools, their job is to stop a school shooting. Right? Yet they don't, right? Somebody comes into a school to shoot it up, nobody does anything about that. And yet people are supposed to defend themselves. Yet we're not doing anything about that. This kid comes in, he shoots somebody. Other people are not supposed to defend themselves and protect people from being shot. I just don't understand.
You came to my area with a gun, and yet you are, it's the Zimmerman thing all over again. I don't understand how I'm minding my business, and you come up to me, or the Ahmaud Arbery, you come up to me, and yet somehow you're defending yourself. I wasn't in your space. I didn't come to you. You came into my space. And as a Black person, I have to be compliant. I have to listen to what you say. I have to follow your rules, whether you're a vigilante or otherwise. But yet, those same laws don't apply to you. So self-defense.
Yep. It's mind. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So the thing that bothers me too is I don't understand. Should he be arrested? Sure. He should have been arrested. Should he be shot in the back 7 times? Maybe not so much. But he's also walking to his car. Why can't we tackle him? He didn't have a weapon. You could have tackled him, handcuffed, and called it a night. You know what I mean? Like, why wait till he gets to the car for him to pull something out so that you can say now it's self-defense? Why not just stop him by the door where you met him instead of letting him walk away? Like, there's so many things that could have happened in between. We're not saying that he's an angel. He's a great man. If he's a bad man, arrest him. Arrest the bad people. But you don't have to kill them in something where you could have arrested them. That's the thing we're trying to say. If he's bad, yes. But do what you have to do to arrest them, but you don't have to kill them instead of arresting them. Or you don't have to try to kill them instead of arresting them. That's the problem we're having.
Because and this is the thing that I need people to realize, and I know for a fact I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on these things. However, I've been alive long enough to know that, one, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Amen.
You are innocent until proven. Even if I could walk down the street and punch somebody in the face. I know, and we all know, I could have 100 witnesses there. I know that I can be charged with assault. I am in that moment, I have committed a crime of assault. However, until I go to court and I am charged, I am innocent. And it is not the responsibility of the police. It is not like it is written into our Constitution that they are not judge, jury, and executioner.
Very true.
This is what we are experiencing, and this is not just like a once every so often thing. This is a consistent thing where Black people are experiencing extrajudicial death. That is what it is. We are being killed by people who are not responsible for deciding our livelihood, and it
so
Agreed.
many things.
so
many things.
Agreed. So, and it'd be nice if they actually fired the cops. Because some of the problem is you get the same cop traveling around state lines from station to station, doing damage all over the place. Why are we keeping the bad cop around? Why are we just shifting them around? If they're bad at their job, you be fired at anything else you do. If they were bad at being a doctor, you wouldn't let them keep doing malpractice at another hospital. You get rid of them. So why are we allowing people to
that's a separate conversation.
It is. But I'm just saying. Everybody has. But I mean, if we had a bad dance teacher who was doing harm, I'm going to be like, hey, keep hurting that student and be like, you need a new job. This might not be the career for you. I'm sorry. Like, obviously you don't like people. If you like them, you wouldn't be causing them harm. You know what I mean? You'd be trying to figure out how to do better. So why are we doing it? You wouldn't allow a bad employee anywhere else in any job to be that negligent and keep them around.
Mm-hmm. Just like unfortunately, I feel like it depends. I understand. I totally agree and understand your example, but I've also seen the opposite happen, specifically in our industry. So,
there's training. See, I think there's a difference. There's training and learning and making a simple mistake and knowing, that was just stupid, and fixing those things. But there's someone who's continually making a negligent mistake. You don't keep them around. People who are training and trying to get better every day, everyone makes mistakes in every career and gets better and better and better and better. But those who want to keep making that same, I'm going to harm someone stage of life, or I'm just not going to do this job, or I'm not going to be this person that I should be in this job, don't tend to keep that job. But somehow cops get to keep floating around.
And can I say, I get very frustrated, especially with that idea that it's just like it's the bad apple. He's just a bad apple. Well, when you have a system, or I could go into the history of the police force, which let's talk about it really quick. That the modern American police force was created during pre-emancipation as a way to round up escaped slaves. So they were slave patrols, basically. And then from there, they were utilized to enforce Jim Crow laws, segregation, redlining mandates. We could go into the war on drugs. We can go into broken window policing, et cetera, et cetera. So the entire police force is based around, the systemic oppression of, minority folk. But that's another conversation for another day. Sorry. Bye. Have a good one. Bye.
I was in the studio last time, so I understand.
But if the system is continuously producing bad apples, or if it's not right, if the tree is producing bad apples, it's not the apples, it's the tree. The tree itself is rotted. The tree is rotted, and you need to get rid of it, or plant a whole new tree. Get rid of the tree and start again.
Yeah.
So, quick question:
there's a law that's trying to pass for
finish
that.
your thought?
Yep.
Oh, there's a law that's trying to actually pass to restructure.
Yeah.
Has everyone seen Hamilton? I hate to bring it
up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been listening to that.
Hamilton.
I've been listening to that soundtrack on repeat because I've been thinking a lot about how the founding, and for the first time ever, because normally hate is a bad word. I am not a fan. I know. I'm going to say it's going to be super controversial. I know. I apologize for anyone I offend now. I'm not a fan of the current system. I'm not a fan of participating in it. I do not go out and vote. I just pulled my daughter out of school because I don't believe in the education system. For me, I believe in literally burning the system, figuratively burning the system to the ground, not literally. Burning the system to the ground because 2 reasons.
Oh,
go ahead.
We're back. Okay. Oh, I was going to say,
was I out?
Your connection went a little crazy there during the middle of it. Yeah. So, but you're back now. So we missed the good portion of that.
Let me repeat the figuratively burning the system to the ground part. Want to make sure that was heard.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay.
Not literally. And mostly because, so 2 things. And like I said, I've been listening to that soundtrack on repeat and how the founding fathers were, and for the first time, I feel like I actually connected with them because you learn about them in history and it's like, it's a bunch of old white guys. But watching it through that play's perspective, it's like they're exactly where we are now.
Hi.
What happened there? Hello.
Are we? Hi.
Are we?
Oh.
Hello.
We're back now.
Harrison, are we okay?
I think so.
Okay.
I see you guys. Hello.
Take it away, Adam.
That was bizarre. You were saying.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
It's like, continue. They were not happy with the current system they were in, so they left. They spilled the tea in the ocean. They started a war, and they were like, no, we are separate from you. You will not rule over us, king. And it was one of those moments where during the course of this, as I'm thinking about what small role can I play, because I think that, and I think Killer Mike said it best, yes, this is an issue that affects all of us. Actually, regardless of your skin color, it affects you. White people just don't know it yet.
They know it.
Or some of them don't.
They know.
They know.
They know. 100%.
Okay, let me rephrase. Some of them won't acknowledge it. You won't acknowledge how much this affects you. But for those of us that are Black, it's extremely real. And I think that it's okay for us to come at it from different angles and perspectives, because to say that we are all going to think the same way, agree the same way, have the same politics, all of us are going to be Democrat, that's just unrealistic, right? There are some of us that are going to be Republican, and then some that are independent, and they fall on a grand scheme. But if you're just deciding that, you know what, I'm just going to be a decent human being and a decent person, it's like, what can I do? What small role can I play that advances me, or I feel like advances my culture or advances my mission forward? And so for me, it's really just been about, I think I shared, Harrison, I think it was your video, Sean King's video, where he was saying that, like, this isn't a broken system. Like, it doesn't need reform. Like, it doesn't need to be fixed. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. This isn't accidental. The police force isn't accidental. The two-party system isn't accidental. Nothing that we are seeing happening right now is accidental or happening by mistake, and it's just a few bad people doing something. This was designed and intentionally supposed to keep African Americans low or oppressed. Did he disappear?
I think he did. But I do want to talk about that. So the system, from the, if you're going back to like Hamilton, the whole Tea Party, it's a different thing.
I love it.
We were attached, right? Like, so when they got rid of them, we were now on our own with nothing. I think what you're saying is we need to blow up how Black people are in the system, not necessarily how the system is itself. Does that make sense? Because the system actually is a decent system if we actually do the system right and aren't in it for just myself. The whole point is no one's going to have the same opinion. No one should. Why do I need to be you or you need to be me? We should have our own opinions and our own developments. We all have different culture backgrounds. And I was thinking how much I love that my closest friends are not the same culture. And I love that everybody has the same colors, but a whole different way to wear it. But if I don't understand, don't bother to have a conversation, then our worlds don't grow. And if I only know me, how do I become better in understanding the world if I don't bother to have a conversation? Now, our big problem right now, our problem as Black people in America is that we've always been a pawn. And right now is a lot of posts, I don't know if you're paying attention, with like, oh, Republicans are the one who freed the slaves. I'm like, that's so great that you're saying it like that, because we were freed for Republicans when it was Abraham Lincoln, also so that they can take away the power of slave owners. We weren't freed out of the goodness of their heart. Let's be very, very clear. Right. They did it to take away the power from them, and then that power struggle created civil war. And then during the 20s, when money started to dry up and Republicans became more about business, Black people started shifting because Democrats started caring about people more. And then Black people jumped from Republicans to Democrats, and Democrats started becoming but it was all about where is the power. And then Democrats took us on because they needed more minority vote, and Republicans are starting to lose it. And so now we're in this weird stage of extreme race battles. But we've always been the pawn for both parties for power, because we as a people and community do have a lot of weight, but we have a lot of weight when they're using us for whom and for whomever. Does that make sense? So I think that if we don't vote and redirect our power for ourselves, then we will never have it. Our vote is probably the strongest vote for ourselves than anybody else, because we are a large community in the America. But if we don't bother to fix it within ourselves, then it's never going to get better. We can't disappear from it and be in it at the same time. That's not possible.
What I'm saying is that not necessarily that what I'm saying is that I hear what you're saying, and I can see why for you that works. What I'm saying is that people might not agree with that. And I've heard a lot of rhetoric, especially with, the issue with voting for Joe Biden. Not that I don't want to completely get into politics, but for me and my house, we've already decided what we're going to do. And we're just like, you know what? This is how we want to take this way. And I think that I think it's okay to say that. And I just want to confirm that for people who might be like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. Maybe I don't want to vote for freaking Trump either. It doesn't mean I support him just because I don't want. And I feel like I don't like that rhetoric. And often it's said that way. And I do disagree with that. Well, and I think that it's okay that I disagree with that.
Well, it's okay that you disagree with it, but it won't make a lot of sense, because not voting is like voting. I mean, I want you to be very clear about that. If I don't vote, that's the same reason why Trump even made it in the first place. Nobody liked Hillary Clinton. I don't care. She was obviously the best candidate, but nobody likes her. So who cares? So nobody voted for Hillary, and then those who did vote voted for Trump. So that means that your vote went to Trump. No matter how you put that, you not voting helped vote him in. Because you did not help him from not being there. No, I mean,
what I'm saying.
But that is what
I'm saying is that I get that it's okay. No, what I'm saying is that it's okay for people to say that, but I want people to understand that that is their opinion. And it's similar to if you're trying to force people to do stuff, but it's like, actually, I don't want to participate in it. For me, it doesn't feel good to participate in that system. What I agree with is your house sucks, I'm blowing both of those up, and I'm going to make a separate decision for me and for mine.
Right.
I mean, you can say that, but you're still. You see what I'm saying? And I get what you're saying, but it still won't make any difference. You still have to live in this. So no matter what you do, if you are living in this, even if you want to do this is still dominating currently. We have to move into a stage where we can make a different department. We're not even close enough. We don't have enough growth in another area to vote something else that's going to make a difference. If we don't vote into the Biden target, I'm sorry. I know he's not. Honestly, do I think Biden is the best candidate we could have put forth? But is he better than freaking Trump? And if you don't vote for Biden, you're going to get Trump. I don't care how you see that. I don't care how you believe that. And I understand you have the right to have your opinion. We all have the right to have our opinions. But not voting is going to get you the worst side of what you didn't do because you didn't do it. You are living in this. This is our world, this is our reality. And Trump's reality is that anybody who's not white is not worth it. And if you don't vote for him, people are going to show up because he has enough support to do that. So you have to make a decision to help us get to a one stage better so we can make a new decision. If we don't make that decision to make the next decision, we don't have the room to go anywhere else. We don't have that space.
Yeah.
We're going to still be in Trump's America.
Can I say, I read this really interesting article this morning on my way to work that we are unfortunately kind of at this precipice where that's the kind of the exact idea. And like, Autumn, I'm with you 100% on that idea. But Jamila, I'm kind of with both of you on that sense that we're at this precipice, especially as, as Black people and as minority people across the board, like y'all being Black women and then me being like a gay Black male, right? That we unfortunately don't have a choice in this decision, right? We either vote for Biden, which I think across the board, the vast majority of people can say is not the ideal candidate really for anyone, right? Are there a whole handful of people that I think would make a much better option? Yeah, for sure, 100%, absolutely. But where our country is at the moment, right, we don't, with what Jamila said, we don't have the growth and we don't have the potential to allow for, unfortunately, a third party. And until we get to that point, this is our best option, because otherwise we are literally this is what the article said this morning, we are a single election away from the no point of return.
Yes. So can I add something really quickly? Because what I agree with what you're saying, while I agree, I think I would feel differently about it so Angela Rye said it perfectly, and she was just saying that like the problem that I have is when they had the Democratic convention, she was commenting about all the things that didn't get brought up. All the things that affect Black people that didn't get brought up. And so for me, it was that moment of, and I've seen this across my social media, and that's something that for me reigns so true. And it's like, Black people, we are kings and freaking queens. Like literally, like the land that we come from, what's written in our DNA, especially as Black women having the Eve gene, like just everything about our melanin is so freaking amazing that for me, it's sad to feel like when I hear people say we don't have a choice, or this feeling like you have to vote for him, even if he has no plan whatsoever to improve, and he's not coming forth with a plan to improve the Black community. And Jamila, you made a comment about, the defunding the police, and I get it that the rhetoric is scary to people, but for me, I understand it very well, because I'm just like, if the system doesn't work, blow it up and create, we have so much magic and power to be able to literally envision and recreate. This is spiritually given actually in all of us, not just Black folk, but all of us, to create a new reality. If that's the case, we wouldn't have cell phones, we wouldn't have computers, Bluetooth headphones and a mic. We have the power to recreate our reality. And when we acknowledge how outstanding and radical that is and make those steps to it, we realize that we actually don't just have two options, we have multiple.
Right.
But I think for me, the disappointment is feeling like there are too many people that feel like we don't have choices, and I don't want to participate in a system where people don't feel like they don't have choices, because it's just not true.
So
for me,
I agree with you. I agree with you. We are magical human beings, queens and kings of this world, and yes, but you have to think of the whole plan. If we don't vote for the next stage, you can't get to the stage.
There's no other stage beyond that.
Right now, this is November is in 3 months? So you tell me in 3 months, we're going to make a magical plan that's going to allow us to make the next step up.
Wait,
go ahead, sorry. We got 3 months to make one step up, to make the next step up, to make the next step up. What you're trying to say is you're skipping 3 steps before the phone exists. There are multiple beta phases before that phone comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to skip the beta phases before the phone's there. You have to do the first step.
That's a lot.
Go ahead, Lauren.
So before my internet cuts out again.
Hello. How's it going,
Lauren? So I think I understand Autumn so much about how you think and feel, and I'm very much on the same page. I do not see the current political system as a way to salvation for Black people, because the system was not made in any way, shape, or form for even our participation to lead to our full emancipation. I simply don't buy into it. I can understand the viewpoint that inaction, in a sense, refusing to participate in the current system, of course, results in certain consequences. On another hand, I don't know, I'm with you, basically. I don't know that I believe that by us rocking the vote in 3 months, that is any step to any greater salvation than what we've achieved so far. But what I really wanted to, first of all, also, I saw Hamilton. I watched it on Disney Plus, and I loved it so much. It was so great.
Basically, this roundtable is just a glowing review of Hamilton, just so everyone knows.
Yes, and this, I can't remember the name of the actress, but the brown skin actress who was the oldest sister. I was watching an interview with her today, and she was talking about how one of the things that was very meaningful about that show to her was about empowerment, and how sometimes you have power, but if you don't realize that you have that power, then you are in fact unempowered. And so I do, maybe against other popular beliefs, I very much believe in the power of and the need to imagine something different, because I feel like we've been hamstering the wheel trying to do the same thing for at least the past half century, and it has not worked. And it's just like what you were saying about at the point at which a corrupt police officer continues to make a mistake, that the tree is rotten, or that mistake is no longer a mistake, it is clearly a habit and a choice. I think that those same ideas have to be applied to our political and economic systems. So I'm totally with you. On another hand, how to balance that with the very clear and present reality of an upcoming presidential election. It's a very kind of raw question So, but I really appreciate your bravery in expressing that, because I also believe there should be more choices. We shouldn't feel forced to choose between one choice and another. And the last point I want to make, it's extremely interesting to me how we really started this conversation speaking about a human rights issue, and it quickly becomes a political issue. And I think there is something for me about that is just so wrong. Like, this should not be an issue of Republican or Democrat, because it's a human rights issue. And that, I'm sure, is an idealist view. But I do think, even for us as we're talking about this, like, not to conflate our human rights issue and make it purely a political one, because I think that we would be limiting ourselves as far as our solution. I don't think we need to wait 3 months to start taking any type of steps towards solving a human rights issue. The political thing is just one aspect of that. That's all. My internet may go, so thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So ladies, I do hear you, and I completely agree with you. I don't know if we've taken the full history of everything that's happened to us in the past to talk about how the future is going to go forward. I do agree that it's a human right issue, and I do agree that this government was not created for us to be in it. We only got the right to vote 40 years ago. I mean, you really think of that math. 40 years ago is when we got the right to vote, and now you're telling people that it's okay not to be a part of it. The voting allows us to make these law changes that are already in action from the current action happening on the streets today that says, we are humans and you need to put us in the system correctly. But if we don't vote for those things, then they won't happen, and this system's not going to just blow up. The people who have power aren't just going to give it away. You can't just kill them. It's going to pass down to their sons. It's going to pass down to their daughters. No, that's what I'm saying. That's not what and I'm not saying you're saying that literally. But I'm like, it doesn't just magically disappear. We are living in this current world. And 40 years ago, I mean, can you imagine how long we've been around? 40 years ago was when we got the right 50. To vote. Right. My dad marched with Martin Luther King twice to get us the right to vote 40 years ago. And now you're telling people that it's okay not to vote. Do you know how hard Black people worked to vote for it? No. No. You're saying you don't believe in it, and that's totally fine. And I don't want to change.
I'm saying for people who don't want to, that it's okay. If you feel like that's what you want to do, I don't believe in trying to force people into thinking one way or another.
What are we marching for? What are you marching
for? Listen, I even feel like in that case with Dr. King, that's, in a sense, it was a referendum on Black folks' humanity. As much as it was Black folks should be allowed to vote, it was about we should be recognized as full humans. And so do I think that, I negate or don't appreciate or don't see the gravity of the immense sacrifices that were made for us to get the right to vote? Absolutely not. In fact, I'm telling you that I see it as more than that. I think that, as I said, it was about, are we human? Do our non-Black peers see us and treat us as human beings, as full humans? So yeah, we have the right to vote for 40 years. But as you said earlier, people still feel that they're enabled with impunity to gun us down like animals, worse than they would.
Like animals.
Right, yes, but listen, people in power are allowing them to do that. Mm-hmm. So how do you get the people out of power to allow us to be humans if we don't? What's the other option right now?
I mean, so for one thing, power and privilege are indeed addictive drugs, and I don't think that there is any rehab for that. I don't know that power and privilege, like some shift of that, is truly what is going to change our lot in this nation.
But you haven't but you're telling me trying right now, if people feel like they don't need to try.
We have tried. We've had Bill Clinton. We've had Democrats in office for years. This is not, we're saying it as though you said we've been trying this for 400 years. We've been in this system, in this world like this. We've had Democrats, we've had Republicans, we've had this system.
We haven't had public support like this.
You know what I would love to see is for us to use our imaginations just like they created this phone, to use our imaginations to try to create something different. That's all I'm saying.
But you do realize that things only happen different if the community as a whole, like this is the first time in America that the entire United States is listening to the same conversation. And it's not, we've never been here before. We have never been here before. And it's not okay not to act like we've been here before. We haven't been here before. We only got like 43 to vote 40 years ago, yes? And so now we've been protesting to be heard. And I understand we are fighting to be heard as humans. And obviously that's work. And obviously we shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't. And we should be treated like the people that everybody else is treated, but we're not. So if you don't have another plan, this is our stepping stone.
Right.
You can't just disappear from it and say that it's okay not to be a part of it. If you're not a part of it, why are we all fighting to have this voice if we're not trying to make action out of it?
Can I step in here really quick? Because I think it's, and I want all of our viewers at home to realize like how, obviously, how important and how much there is at stake for us as people of color in this upcoming election. And this is why, why we speak so passionately about all of these ideas. And I want to speak to kind of everyone, just like general, is that, we as Black people, fortunately, I think we can have it all in the large sense that, what Autumn is talking about, like we are magic as people and can create great things, but we also have to, like with what Jamila says, is understand kind of the reality, the unfortunate reality that we live in, that where we are currently, unless and until there is something else that we create. And I'm going to harken back to something that Jamila said on the last panel in a second. But until we create and establish something else, this unfortunately is all we have, right? And if you look at the kind of like the ethos of the American political system as it stands right now, and as I said before, we are quite literally on it's an all or nothing sort of moment that we have. We are at the point of no return. So if we don't come up with something for ourselves that we can get the vast majority of people to rally behind and suddenly make that happen for us in November, right? Then option B is to vote the correct way, or what the correct way is, what the way is that won't lead us to option C, which is the unfortunate reality, which is an authoritarian government. So that is largely, just in listening to what everybody's saying, where we are. And to harken back to what Jamila said last time is, unfortunately, as I yank my headphones out of my ears, hello everyone. Unfortunately, unless we do something, and unless we as Black people do something about it in an immediate sense and an immediate standpoint, right, it won't get done. So, and that's unfortunately the burden that we as Black people have always had to bear within this country, is that, we have always had to be the ones leading the charge. And in particular, Black women have always had to be the ones leading the charge to get things done. Right. So hopefully I 100% agree with you, Autumn and Lauren, that I 100% agree that I think it's a load of BS that these are the only options that we have. Right, when there are very clearly so many better options that exist in the world. And I don't want to feel like these two are the only things that I can choose or subscribe to. And I know there are tons of other options and candidates that exist on the ballot, but I also want to agree and point out Jamila's fact that, unfortunately, the other, even though we're not a two-party system, I'm going to put that in very heavy quotes, we are not a two-party system, right? The other parties that exist in our system unfortunately don't have the backing and don't have the ground like the Democratic and Republican parties. So that is unfortunately the spot that we are at. So I agree that we shouldn't force, it shouldn't feel like a forced thing. Right. And I don't
agree with forcing anybody to think or believe or do anything. Right. But I also want to add that I think that I won't speak for Lauren, but for me, I definitely believe that it goes outside of just my options for what's possible, and our options go outside of just this current political system. So it's not even just Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. I'm like, blow all of that up.
Right. Oh, for sure. Right. I mean, truthfully, I would agree with that 100. And I feel like most people would agree with that it's, that's one of the core things of our training. We talk a lot about personality types, as dance instructors, right? And that everybody, just as a person, we fit into we fit into all of those different personality types for sure, right? And there's one that we tend to lean more towards. We tend to something as a person, but we still exist and exhibit traits from all of those things. So I think it doesn't do us, I'm gonna use a bold word here, it doesn't do us justice to have to subscribe to a singular ideology, but also at the same time, I caution not using your voice with the most closely aligned thing. But with that, I do want to continue having these conversations because this is really important. But I want to try to weave in the original topic of today's roundtable.
And a really quick note. I do agree. I do agree with you guys. I do think there should be more. I do think we should be considered as human, and I think Harrison did a great job wrapping that up. I do think. But I know that all of this, it has actually gotten better. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it's gotten better because people have fought in the streets beside us and they have voted beside us. And if we stop voting now, and you can have your opinion, but if we stop voting now, then all of this will be for naught. Mm-hmm. And we have to do it. If we don't do it, who will?
And
I agree with you guys. I agree with you guys so much about the fact that it is a human right. We shouldn't have to do it. And we should have, although we are bigger than these little departments that they're trying to put us in. And we are greater than this. This is where we currently are.
Right. And to that point, I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of my parents, who's an older Black woman. She lives in DC, actually good friends of my dad. And she marched with Martin Luther King and, she's kind of been through it all. Her grandparents were escaped slaves and, there's a lot of history to it. And she listened to the last roundtable and the one before that, and is probably listening to this one. And she said to me that these conversations and these feelings that we are having as people are the same exact conversations and feelings that she and her family and she and her friends have all had forever, right? Is that why are we, that question is why are we voting for these Democrats or these Republicans who are, who have historically used us as pawns in their greater plan, right?
Yeah.
Why should we? And why don't we have that agency? And so just know that like these conversations are not new and are not all too unfamiliar to the cause. And I hope that everyone here and everyone watching realizes that, we shouldn't have to have these conversations.
True.
Right? But we are literally only like 40, 50, 60 years removed from when I'm going to say, I'm using a lot of quotes today, air quotes, when I say we fully received agency as people.
Yeah.
Quotes.
Because even that idea is suspect.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm actually very glad that the conversation went this way, because now we have to talk about, like what it means to be, I'm going to just like kind of blanket statement it and say, what does it mean to be a Black person in a service industry, in particular in a service industry that largely caters to caters to a white audience? And even more, what does it mean to you as Black women to be part of that kind of system and culture? And I will let whoever would like to start. Alyssa, you raised your hand, so go ahead, my dear.
So I feel like I have a lot of things to say about this specifically. I am obviously part of the Arthur Murray world, and so I work in that industry as a service industry. I am also a food and beverage manager and have been in hospitality for 11, almost 12 years at this point, which is very much a service industry. And I think it feels, sometimes it can feel like taking several steps back, because my primary job, I work for a hotel in a town in Connecticut that is very much old money and is very, very much white, so to speak. I'm the only, to my knowledge, the only African-American female manager for the company. And I think everybody else that I've seen is either part of my wait staff or is in housekeeping. And so there's not a lot of us. And then just a blanket, like being Black in this industry, let alone being a Black woman in this industry, there's maybe 4 or 5 managers total that are African-American for this company that has multiple properties and whatnot. So it's tough. I feel like a lot of times I have to walk a fine line, or I have to wear a mask, so to speak, because I can't just be me and be good at what I do, because that's too threatening. A lot of white fragility kind of comes into play when you're a manager in this position. I've also noticed, as far as like being in the dance studios, unless you are like shucking and jiving kind of thing, like they're not inclined to want to take lessons. That is my.
Okay.
I think we might have lost her.
Oh, wait, I think she's coming back in.
Oh, Alyssa, can you hear us?
Oh, it sounded like she was coming back in.
It sounded like she was
I can
coming
hear
back.
you.
Okay.
Oh, there she is.
There you are. Hello.
Hello?
Okay.
We heard fucking and jiving.
I don't know what happened.
We left you.
Okay. So, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
really don't know what happened. I haven't moved. There's no bad weather. But yeah, so like, obviously a lot of people have been able to be successful in the dance world through various means. And I think it just gets hard as somebody who's new that you kind of have to figure out how to be authentically you, but like if that fits into this world. And it's hard being a Black person or a brown skinned person trying to do that. And it's, in my opinion, even harder being a Black female trying to do that, or brown female trying to do that. And then for me personally, this is totally separate topic, but like then you add being plus size into that. And I'm like, well, damn, what am I, anything else y'all want to throw at me? And I feel like it's kind of very much like a fine line of being there to provide a service and people viewing you as a servant. And
yeah.
That happens a lot.
That's our hot take for today.
Court.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a big one that I say too.
Yep.
We provide excellent service. We are not anyone's servant, and it's a thin line. I think that people feel like when you do so much for them, then they can just—it's like, no, you don't get to walk over people here. If you like to have a conversation, we can have it, but that's not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and I've
go ahead. Sorry,
I've run into. Sorry, no. Last piece. I've run into that issue where people will try it, and I'm not the person for you to try it with. So
got the right one today.
That's happened, and like I've stood up for my staff and had people, with like snapping and banding at my wait staff and stuff, and not so much at the studio. I'm still very low profile there, but like especially in hospitality and especially in the area that I work in, and my coworkers are primarily white as well. And so I can't come out of character, so to speak. But I have no problem correcting somebody and letting them know that. I've been pulled into the office several times by my manager of, well, what happened? Well, why did you? Because they were being disrespectful. So let me know now if that's something that you guys tolerate here. Because if that's what it is, then this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. But I still have that job. So we saw what decision they made. But like, that's it. There's a lot more things, but like, there's a very fine line between providing a service and being a servant, and I think a lot of people need to realize that.
Yeah.
Ooh, you said that, and everyone went, "Ooh." Yep.
It's a statement. It's a real one. I think it doesn't happen as big in Arthur Murray because we create a different relationship from the beginning. Mm-hmm. We're not serving them like on a platter, literally. I think people take that for servitude, and we have a different let's get to know you, let's take care of you, and then every once in a while you get someone who loses their mind, and it's usually a different reason that they lost their mind, and you sort of like, hey, are you having a bad day? What's going on? And then they usually apologize, and they kind of go through their conversation, and then you're back to dancing or whatever. And so it's just a little reminder, like if they can't get it together, it's only been like one person we've ever kicked out of our studio. Where like you're going too far. You don't know how to respect people. This is the place where people get to come for everyone to be happy, including the employees. And if you can't do that as be respectful to people walking around this place, then this obviously isn't the place for you. So, but it's rare. Yeah. It's rare that it happens at the dance studio, but it does have to be clear. So it's not on the walls, but I think people understand it a little better there. And unfortunately,
I mean, there's a few.
There's a few, but it's not as many as you think. And most of the time, that's the relationship that the instructor creates. I know it sounds horrible, but if your instructor's like that, then they create students like that. Mm-hmm. You rarely have a problem with a teacher who's not like that. It doesn't happen. It's like the same thing with the girl who has all of her stuff out, and the guy's like, "Oh, I want her." You know what I mean? So it's what are you creating around you as a dance instructor is what you tend to get from clients. Does that make sense? And there's three unfortunate things about service. You have to be three things in this business to be successful. You don't have to be all three, but you have to be at least one of them. You have to be hot, pretty, you have to be very, very talented, or you have to have the best personality in the world. And that's nice. If you're not one of those three, you're not going to make it.
Can we talk about the first one really quickly? Because I feel like, and I feel like Lauren and we talked on this a little bit on the first one, is that I feel like, not to pat myself on the shoulder, but
it's a glam business, you guys.
You're in a glam business. However, I feel like sometimes race does play a role in that, and that it's not that I'm not attractive because I'm not attractive. I'm not attractive because I'm brown or my hair's too kinky and I wear my hair in an afro.
Well,
or
now
my butt's too big.
not everyone's attracted to the same thing, but you don't have to be their attraction to be attractive. Now, I'm not attracted to everybody the same way. I can be attractive and not be attracted to you, or you would be attracted to me.
I agree.
I
agree.
Yeah.
However, I agree with that. However, that's not the image that's put out at all. Often when you see attraction, especially in a mainstream white America that we live in, it's often the skinny white girl with the blonde hair. That is the image that is put out there, and that's the image.
No, and that's not true. I gotta tell you right now, the studio that I grew up in was very white culture, and they still are, and it's like, what do you want? Do you want that little? I mean, like everybody has a different. And honestly, is that black girl stand out to you? That's a different conversation. Does that white girl with big boobs? If that girl has big boobs, the girl in my studio who had big boobs wasn't blonde with blue eyes, and she got that same attraction. Does that make sense? So it's just a difference in how you carry yourself,
right?
But you could be attractive and not have all that out. So I think it's a matter of what are you comfortable looking at yourself, and what are you putting on you? What's your job putting on you for attraction?
Can I? Because I agree with all of that. I think my concern with, the idea of being attractive, right? Especially in the ballroom, world. And I'm not just thinking from a day-to-day, just in studio sort of perspective. I'm thinking kind of the bigger picture of our industry, the ballroom industry, that the idea of attraction lends itself or tends to be much more sided with a strictly European aesthetic.
I agree with that.
Right? So I think it's tricky, and this is something that I have largely struggled with my entire dance career since I was 8 years old, because I grew up in upstate New York. I was one of maybe 6 Black people, and not to draw this comparison, but barely, I quite literally I pass as literally every other ethnicity, race, you name it, except for Black. So, growing up one of the only people of color in my hometown, and being the only person of color in my first dance studio, the only male Black guy in my dance studio, I had to deal with a lot of things and also being in musical theater, them not having the correct foundation for me, them not having all the correct ideas for makeup and backdrop, or not makeup, but costumes and backdrops and things like that. I remember when I was, I think 15, we did a tap routine to Wheel Around the Sun from Lord of the Dance, Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance. It was a full-on tap routine. They kind of stole the choreography from the actual show. So it's a whole nother topic. But yeah. I remember me being the only Black guy in the show. Everybody else there, I don't want to say lily white, but everybody is there is white as can be. And they have us wearing black turtlenecks and black pants. I'm the only Black kid with black hair against a black backdrop, and I'm standing in the back right corner. And I remember watching the video.
Yo!
I'm back.
Did he get run over? What
you guys have a race car over you.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It sounded like somebody came and took you out.
It's because I was talking about the ghost of Michael Flatley came to attack me. I think it was Gary. Gary, so everybody knows. Gary,
Hi, Gary,
one of our co-hosts, he's running all of the stuff in the background. So he's controlling everything. He's doing a really good job. This is our first time using this program to stream things. So thank you, Gary, for all of your hard work.
There he is.
There he is. There's Gary. Woo! Gary. But, that has been the idea of trying to I'm going to use a word here, a very important word, and everybody pay attention. I have spent a lot of my life trying to whitewash myself as far as my dancing is concerned to fit into what I think the larger dance community wants from me. Did I dance hip hop? Yeah, for sure. Did I, but I was much more interested in Jamila. Okay, we're back.
So much fun.
Hi.
Gary's
playing
playing around. Yeah, I know. Okay. So something. I'll keep it quick because my internet might die again. But I spent a lot of time, trying to subscribe to a very different aesthetic than what was my own. Even getting into the ballroom world, being told at one point, that I wasn't going to make a final unless I cut my hair. Having people, like that microaggression of being like, oh my gosh, look, I'm as dark as you in the lineup. That's that's one of the most frustrating things for me. It's like, yes, I know I have tan and you've got fake stuff on your skin. Great. But leave me alone.
That is the only thing that really bothers me about it. If you are tanning to be as dark as me, you've gone too far.
You have gone too far.
You've gone too far. I get so mad. I was like, I get getting a glow of brown, but when you're coming out like a black person, you are now in a very thin line between races. You know what I mean? That bothers me. I was like, why is she so brown? And then leave her face, and you leave their faces white, and then they're powdered brown this way. It's like, what are you doing? Come on.
The craziest thing is it
drives me crazy.
It's accepted.
It's accepted, and that's what bothers me. And I've started talking about it in the right people's ear, but I'll get there eventually. But to me, there needs to be a line between tan and I'm trying to be black, and I've gone too far. Mm-hmm. I don't care how dark your partner is; you don't have to match him. I'm sorry.
Here's my thing for this.
You can be your own brown version.
In my area, we have had a conversation on a smaller scale about what's expected as far as black hair and makeup and all of those things. Because first of all, I'm biracial. I'm half white, half black, and I'm supposed to look just how I look right now. And my problem is you have people who are setting this standard as far as aesthetic of that European feels but you're are trying to look like we naturally look. So decide what it is that you want. That for me, that's my problem is people are tanning to get the skin tone or that glow that I feel like we all naturally have to some extent because we're, various shades and whatnot, but you're going through all these extra hoops to look like us. But then you're going to sit here and tell people that look like us that we should be looking more like you.
Right.
If you pay attention to, they have black hairstyles. Have you looked at the hairstyles for ballroom?
Oh, absolutely.
Finger waves.
All of it.
Braids. Everything.
It's black. It's like, I don't understand it. If you just do your normal black self, you look like them. And that's it. It's it. There's no need to go through it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. And I think, sorry, I have lots of ambient noise back here, but I think to go back to that idea of being a black woman, particularly in this industry, it's that, this same color that actually makes it difficult for us to participate strongly in the economic benefit of being in the industry is the one that allows other people who are not black to receive more and more benefit from it. So it's just a little weird. And to kind of go back to that, first of all, I'm excited that we're all hot, talented, and have excellent personalities. I just love that, Jamila. I'm going to carry that for the rest of my life. Everyone here is that way. But I think when we're talking about being hot, it's not just, are you attractive? I think it's about how people are socialized to understand desirability more so than simply when I lay my eyes upon you, do I see beauty? So I think that the place where we as Black women are at a disadvantage that is unique to us, because I personally believe that we have a different experience even from the Black men who are in the community. But I think what's unique about that is that people's minds don't understand desirability necessarily when they see us, even when they see hot, even when they see beautiful, even when they see talented and amazing personality. And the thing about that that's a shame, apart from the fact in their life, it sucks that they can't see awesome when they lay eyes upon it. But it means that we are continually excluded from the economic prosperity in this industry. And that, for me, is really a shame. And I also wanted to kind of mention something. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. I'm weird. I take notes. So I'm like, I gotta say this. But talking about service, like the way I was raised is to think that service is honorable. And I try to look at almost everything, almost anything that I do, whatever position I've held, from being at the bottom of the ladder to being in some sense on the top. I always think of my role in that sense as one of service, because that is how I was raised to understand how we can be. Was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote, anyone can be great because anyone can serve. And so personally, for me, service, servant, these are not necessarily negative words. I think what's can be a little bit tricky about it for me is when I spend so much of my time and energy in service to this, frankly, purely very much capitalistic pursuit, and that benefits people who I don't mind helping others however they look, whatever station they are in life. But the struggle it brings for me as a Black person in the service industry, it's when I am putting forth so much energy and effort to serve people in a way that edifies them as a human, and then I am unable to do that for the people who are maybe in my community or who I love, my family, because all of that service energy has been expended here. So it's just one way that being Black, and I think that's historic. I think as Black people in a service industry, that has been true for many years. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
So I'm sorry, just so I can understand, because I want to make sure I got what you said. When you're saying that you're providing so much service at work that you're too drained to provide service at home, is that what you're saying? To your family?
It's not even, that might be an oversimplified way of looking at it. Like I think about the working hours that I spend with our elders that are in the studio who need our help because their memories, they need to be active because they're suffering memory loss, and dance is good for that, or simply they're lonely. And then I think about how much time and energy I am there in this city working with that versus, my own grandmother. Do I provide that same service, in a sense, to her that I did at work? Not in a, again, thinking about, well, I get paid for one and not for the other. For personally, I, in some sense, couldn't care less, but it's just about how we spend our waking, most energetic, most productive hours, where and with whom, and to the benefit of whom.
So I don't think that's a Black issue. I think that's a human issue with all workers and then all going home and doing. I think it's just us as Americans, actually, probably more than anybody else. Because other cultures make as much time for their family, if not more, than they really do at work. And as Americans, we are always overworking ourselves. And we have to do that balance. Is that whole circle of life thing? Have you ever done that? Where they see it, how is your wheel? Is it actually a wheel, right? You have family, spiritual, work, like happiness, vacation. Are all those things making a full wheel for you to balance yourself out? I don't think it's a Black person thing so much as an American problem.
Sure. And I think the issue of work-life balance is certainly a human experience. One, I think where it becomes, for me, an issue of maybe Black or woman or minority is about let's say this, how much work, how many hours I need to work to make enough money to survive.
Well, it shouldn't be enough hours. Sorry, I was thinking
as far as I know, the Arthur Murray business model is based on hours, even though they're oftentimes, I'm talking about specifically the system that I'm in right now. Maybe it's different in different places, but I'm thinking about how, I am in a system where I have to spend a lot of time and energy in order to provide for myself. And maybe it's not always going to be that way. Maybe different Arthur Murray studios take a different economic or, model that they use. I don't know. But I do notice that one friend of mine who is very successful said to me once, it takes the same amount of effort to make $10 million as it takes to make 10,000. And True. Sometimes it's about like where we find ourselves. And I feel like disproportionately we as Black and brown people and as women find ourselves in a position where we have to make a lot of effort and we make 10,000 rather than 10 million. So that is where I would argue that this is not simply a American problem, though I see your point about work-life balance.
Well, no, and I hear you. I think I understand what you're saying. And so it is true. As Black women in America, or as Black people in America, we make $1 less than the person who has the same exact degree, the same exact experience in any job. And as a woman, we make even less than that. So we are always, if we have the same education, same experience, same fight, we are already designed to make that much less as a man and that much less as a woman for the exact same career. And that's crazy. Now, I do find it different in Arthur Murray. And just so I know if we're all on the same page, in my school, you have hourly wages, which is your minimum. Mm-hmm. And then however much you teach, if you break your teaching time windows, then there's bonuses within teaching. And there's also bonuses within certification. Do you all have that in your schools?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So if you all have that, so this is where I find that to me, from my experience, is not a Black thing. It's what are you doing to create new activities with students that you could do for yourselves? So the service that I provided when I was new, it was hard to get up, but I was teaching around 15, 20 lessons my first year. But I also wasn't working there full time. I was part time. And so if I could get, if I can create my exchanges with the teacher, if I talk to students about things when I'm dancing at party, about different projects, and then I'd follow up with the teacher and say, hey, what are you working on? Is it okay if I do this with this student? And then they're like, yeah, cool. And so I would go to the teacher, we talk to them, and then I would have an exchange lesson with that, doing that project for at least 3 months. And then if I'm doing my job to build myself in the program that they're doing, and then also because we teach at Arthur Murray, right? That's the best thing about what we have is we can do it as a community, not fighting for livelihood because we have that. You have your hourly pay to give you something to live off. But everyone's goal is to get you on teaching time pay with all the bonuses because you can go from, say, $300 a week hourly to $800 a week by teaching. You get paid for your teaching contributions. Really, that's the goal to get you, not by your hourly. So if you're fighting for more hours, that doesn't really help you if your teaching time still is very low. Does that make sense? So if you are hustling, this is not a non-hustle job.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm familiar with the hustle in all its various forms. And so hustling is not an issue. I noticed in this model, by the way, I love your energy, Jamila, and I can just see you like, she goes in the studio, she's like, I got 50 lessons this week, just like, basically. I love it. I think it's amazing. I'm really here for that. But on another hand, what I see with this business model, and I'm not being critical, I'm just personally calling a spade a spade, is that the currency that you need to make a decent living, at least in my experience, maybe it's different in other places, it's very time intensive to get that currency, be it certifications, be it, I know for my students, I work hard for my students for every single lesson. I work hard for them, and that takes time and energy. And I'm not saying I don't want to spend it at all. But yeah, I am a person who likes to do epic stuff. So I'm not necessarily a person who keeps track of an hour of time, which is probably not the best habit as far as, how I live my life and how I do my best work. On another hand, it takes a lot of time. And for me personally, like having to build my level of dance and, having for years already paid dues about teaching and coming frankly to this company as a master teacher, I see already without the Arthur Murray training, I see firsthand like how that system that's created, it's very time intensive. Is it impossible? I don't think so. But it takes a lot of time and energy. I just remember an executive telling me after, I'm not going to say that person's name, but after X number of years in this company, 10, 12, her yearly salary was something like $80,000 a year. And I saw her grind and her hustle. And I was like, really? It just feels like it's not a system that rewards effort and talent to me the way that they ought to be in order for people to live truly prosperous and balanced lives. But that's, again, my experience and opinion. And I'm only here 2.5 years. So I couldn't be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I think that the hustle's, I think that what you're putting in is real. Oh, I'm sorry, she had her hand up. I think what you're feeling is real. But I do think there's more potential for pay the more you push through. But I didn't mean to take her. Her hand was up.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Alyssa, yeah.
So for me, just like being so new, like I said, like I don't have a lot of Arthur Murray experience as far as like the business and the finances. I know what I get paid or what I don't get paid, depending on which way we want to spend this conversation. But I will say this, I can agree with Lauren about like not feeling like you're getting paid for like the time you're putting in for it in certain aspects, if I'm understanding that correctly. For me, especially starting new, my studio, we start with 2 days and you have to get up to 10 lessons consecutively for like 4 weeks. And then they move you into like your teaching hours, so to speak, or full time, where you can open up days. So I had to pick 2 days out of the week. Now for me, I'm naturally going to pick my 2 slowest days at my primary job because that's the money that I'm living off of. Now, the expectation, or at least the expectation for me that I feel, is that I'm supposed to constantly sacrifice the job that's actually paying my bills and my livelihood for a chance to maybe get a lesson. Now, the culture of the studio that I'm learning is very different than like every other studio I've been in or that I know people work at. It's literally, I'm like, well, we do this at my studio. And they're like, yeah, that's a Bloomfield thing. And I'm like, all right, like I'm finding this out. As far as, discussing the work-life balance portion of this, I feel like for me, at least as a young Black woman, I feel like I almost have no choice but to not have that balance. It's to constantly be pushing because people are expecting me that I have to prove myself still, even though, I have a good track record, very good track record. But I still have to find myself feeling like I have to prove myself. And this is, segueing back into the studio part of it. I've showed up at everything. I'm constantly there. Like, I can only do so much. I'm learning. I'm trying to go through my certification process. I'm trying to learn the business. I'm trying to learn the front desk. What do the managers have to do? What does this person have to do? How do we teach lessons? All of the things that I'm supposed to learn in 2 days a week. And it doesn't feel like it's enough.
Tough. Yeah.
And like, so total on a regular week, I'm working 90 hours and that's a normal week. And I'm like, so when am I supposed to now? I'm not at work. Now I'm supposed to go home or stay after and practice. It's not expected, but it's hoped for that we compete when we were allowed to have competitions and stuff. So like, when am I supposed to have time to do that? If I'm already I'm grinding in the studio, I have no problem doing it outside. I was like, at some point I'm still a human being and I kind of need to sleep occasionally. Yeah. So like, when am I supposed to do that?
I feel like the most difficult thing, especially about starting the business, well, obviously there's a very steep learning curve in the business, and then it's even steeper and I say this knowing full well that I don't have the experience, but I've seen the ladies in the studio that I work for I've seen like the process through which they've gotten to where they've gotten now. But the learning curve for women in this industry is so much higher because, for me as a guy, I can walk in and there are, 10, 11, 12 single women who, need to take a dance lesson with somebody who's, what were the three things? Attractive, good personality,
talented, and great personality.
All those three things that I so happen to have. Right. But there are like 12 single women who are lined up ready to dance and do the thing just from the drop. Whereas for women, and this is more to do with like the male ego, right? Unfortunately, and this is kind of the case in pretty much all aspects of life, but men just hold women back all the time. So I'm here to tell everyone today that men are the vast majority of the world's problems. So here we go. Right? But so that's today's hot take, that men are the majority of the world's problems. But right, but
men definitely have it easier.
Oh my God, 100%, right? So women very much have to work a lot harder to make it happen. And then to kind of relate everything back to what we've been talking about, I think in particular for people of color, I get very stressed out for, I'm very fortunate to work and live in a studio that is, I work in a studio that is very, very diverse and very, very, I want to say just like open and progressive thinking. We're very progressive as far as our studio kind of like philosophy and like ethos and energy, and like everybody is very supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement, of the LGBT rights movement, and all of those like super important things, like everybody is on board with. And so I get stressed out for instructors that I know who work for studios where the management or executive staff or anything along those lines don't necessarily subscribe to those same ideas. And when I say don't necessarily subscribe to those same ideas, I may or may not might be like, rabid Trump supporters. So I know. See, everybody goes, deep breath, takes it, but it 100% exists in this, not only in just our company, but in the ballroom world in general. So I worry about women, but Black women in particular, and just Black people in general, who are forced to have to either, be students in those environments or be instructors in those environments. And what are the roadblocks that are put upon them because of the fact that, the person that may be their manager or franchisee or, something, works above them like that. So that's just like a thought that came across my mind that, I'm very fortunate to work in a very progressive place, but, I'm more concerned about other situations like that. So without naming any names, they exist.
I definitely agree. And I appreciate you making that statement, Harrison, of like how difficult it is, not that it can be, how difficult it is or has been for women, and more so for African American women, to start in this industry. Touching on the topic that point that Jamila made about being hot, or that attractiveness factor, like there's so many things that play into that. And so then, going back into that like hustle mentality and that work-life balance and feeling like we have to keep, like we're constantly hustling. Most people are going to come into the studio. When you finally do get a guy that actually wants to come into the studio, he is going to gravitate toward the woman that looks either most like him or looks familiar to him, and or for that European aesthetic that ballroom is known to have. So that's one strike. So now that's something that we have to overcome, that factor. Then, being a new person, I'm just speaking on behalf of the newer people, like, then they know you're new because they ain't see you there before, or you have teachers who are not necessarily, I might get in trouble for saying this, but whatever, not necessarily the best support system in building your new instructors, your new staff members. So there's that challenge. And then you add in the fact, again, this is from my own experience, the fact that I am now Black and plus size, and they're expecting me to dance. People automatically are very standoffish about it. And I'm like, but understand, I have this job and you don't. So far, I'm doing pretty good to teach you. But that's something
Yep.
But I don't want to sound
one more time for the people in the back.
But that's really what it is. I'm just well, who are you to tell me you can't teach me? I've been here. I was like, yes, but I work here. You've been paying to learn how to do this. They're paying me to show you. So what was it again?
Can I?
That's what I'm just
So I agree with you. And I say that's in the hobby in every studio where advanced students are well, they can't teach me, they're so new. And then you'd be well, actually, they can, and here's why. And then you'd get into that oh, okay. I was she's going to do this, and she's going to make this a lot better at the end of this lesson. And then you do, and they stop saying it. But they all say that no matter what you look like or who you are. The plus size thing is something that's going to be against you for a little bit, and that's just, it's unfortunately true. I agree with you. And it is tougher. Yeah. It is tougher in a different sense to me to be a Black woman in the business than it is tougher to be a woman in the business than it is to be a man. There's always a student ready to dance with a man 24/7. You're F you. But I love you. But screw you, right?
Sorry, but also, yeah.
Yeah. but a woman has to hustle. And we have a different kind of attraction. And we have more than you think. That's the part that's crazy. There's more people attracted to you than you think they are. It's, do you see it? And then what do you do about it when you do see it is a different conversation. But most of the time they look at you because you're this exotic thing that they've always been curious about, and they're excited to see you dance and move because they really want to move like you most of the time. Mm-hmm. And females want to move like you more than they want to move like the European one, unless the European chick's been dancing her whole freaking life. I'm just saying, there's more advantages in the Black part than we take advantage of. Does that make sense? That you're allowed to take advantage of in a comfortable way. We have a movement about us that I've always loved about being Black that a lot of cultures don't have. And other cultures have, it's like being Spanish. I think it's something about being Spanish that they have that other cultures have to learn to have. And so I embrace that part about me, and I love it. And I have to tell them, this is how I get to do this. And you're oh, how do you do that? I was well, you got to take a lesson. All right. And then you show them how to do it in your salsa, and your whole life changes. It's called, so there's more in there that you can enjoy about being Black in the business than I think. But also, it is true. Each studio has its own heart culture designed from your owner or your franchisee. And that's a different world. I can't touch that. But even if you're in there and if they see you making money being you, they ain't going to stop you. If they're stopping you, you need to go somewhere else. Yeah. But as soon as you make enough money, they'd be oh, she doubled her lessons. She doubled her lessons for that. I think you should do that some more.
She's great. Yeah.
Right, she's great.
I think the hardest, the craziest part, though, is that in my area, and I don't think, I think maybe a couple of you guys are familiar with the northeastern kind of areas and stuff. In my area, my studio is we joke about it, but we're the brown studio as far as professionals.
Oh my
there
God,
are two people in our studio who are not brown. Right. All the rest of us are either. Yeah. Yep. So we have a Dominican and Jamaican supervisor. Yep. We have a Puerto Rican and white counselor. Then we have instructors who are Trinidadian and Jamaican, Dominican. I'm African American and Italian American. We have another female instructor who is Venezuelan and white. So we're all some type of brown, except for the two that are just white. But I'm still not getting the support as a Black person. They will give the female lessons even, because I agree, Jamila, females want to learn how to dance. They see another female, they want that feminine energy. So we do have ladies styling lessons, but they're always booked with the more European looking female instructor.
Yeah, but there's an African
and
black.
That's shocking to me, being in a brown studio like that, though. Like,
I mean, you all sound pretty brown. I mean, who did you not throw out? That was the one supervisor. Everybody else sounds pretty brown.
No, it was two. It's our admin and one, and our essentially actually our top teacher that are the only two like white, like just full white.
But there's a different. There's more styling than just arms. This body movement, right? Like you get in there. I mean, I just. Do they see that? They might not see the value of it yet. So show them how awesome it is. You might have to be the first. I mean, I know it's not the goal, but like,
challenge accepted.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You might have to show them how awesome it can be. Show them how fun it is. Do it in the middle of when we have parties again. It's easier for me because my whole world. You know what I mean? If you're at a party, you can show them how fun it is. The whole world, man, is flipped like a jerk. So like, do a virtual commercial on Facebook. Be like, we're gonna do this. Call me.
And you know what? You know what I love about
in theory, that's great.
Well, you know,
it can be reality. It doesn't. What I want to make sure people know is that it doesn't take away the reality that there is a problem, right? Like there is a reality that Black women aren't seen as sexy. They aren't seen as like. There's a reality that exists. What I like about what Jamila is saying, though, is that even though that's a reality, these are the things you can do to overcome it. And I've seen it happen like firsthand for me, being a new instructor. I've seen, and a white girl came after me at my studio, and then everybody got up to dance with her. And so at first it was told to me that like, they're not going to want to dance with you because you're new. You know, so there's, you know, everybody here has been dancing for a really long time. But then when I see you do that because she has no dance experience, and I've at least got dance experience. So it's like, so the issue that you're not dancing with me, not because I'm new, but there's something else there. But Jamila, I like what you're saying because it's adding that extra personality on top of it that then sets you apart. But the problem I think starts with having to mentally overcome that in the first place.
But I do think I think that for regular culture and in the world of greatness, but it's still that a whole Hitler regime where you got blonde people with blue eyes. But I do think that people still find us sexy. Like I don't think that is. I mean, if we weren't sexy, we wouldn't be in magazines.
It can barely see children. Like the reason why we're having these conversations, if you can shoot children dead on the street, you can kill Sandra Bland. Like this again, the reason why I disagree is because I don't think that Black people, Black women, Black men are seen in the same light overall. And I think it is included in the dance studio. Mm-hmm. You can't even see little kids as kids. You can't see women as women. You can't see men as fathers and sons and brothers and uncles. Like we are not seen as humans, and so you can't then just erase it and pretend like that doesn't happen in the dance studio because it does.
So I'm not. I think this is two different conversations. So I think treating someone like they're a human and objectifying them are two different things. I don't. You can objectify anything. You can objectify a rock if you wanted to. I'm not. Now, do I think that's a good thing? No. I think that's a real conversation? Yes. But I do think people can still find you attractive and not consider you human. Is that a horrible statement? Yes.
Right. And
I don't think anything about that is good.
And that, of course, would be fetishization. And, you know, I don't know, again, as this industry is based kind of on image.
Fetishization.
Maybe it's not fetishization. Maybe in some cases it is, some it isn't. But, you know, does that serve us, that some people see us as this exotic thing? Does that really serve us? And I'm talking about on a business level. Does that really help us to be successful in this business? On the other hand, Jamila, I really love what you...
Oh, we lost it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It was the body roll. I'm sure it was the body roll.
Yeah, she loved what you were doing. We're going to try to get her back. Hold on 1 second. Oh no.
But no, I think attraction is a weird conversation, and I think that it's, you know, what people find sexy are different, and I think that there's more people see it as sexy than we think. But now, do I think that they're not really seeing it as human yet? I think you're 100% correct. But I do think that more people find you sexy than you think.
And but we have a separate issue where if I can't get lessons with you because then you don't want to dance with me, if in parties you don't even want to touch me, like these are issues that affect my bag. Like this affects my making money. Like I can care less whether or not you're racist and you don't like me. But if it starts to affect my paycheck, then that's separate.
But that's weird. Like, see, that to me has to be something completely different. Because people will not dance with you because you're black and walk into the studio. That's got to be something, a culture that's either being created to keep you out. Like, that's not a thing. I mean, it's a thing. I believe it's a thing for you, but it's not like a thing that people go, I'm going to go dancing, but I'm not going to dance with that black person. Most of the time, people go to the studio thinking the black person can dance. You know what I mean? Like,
it's implicit racism in the ballroom world. I mean, it exists, and it exists. Like my experience before this is more with the social dance world. They have the same conversations. The same thing happens. The black women don't get asked to dance. The black women don't get hired. The black men do, especially if they have a white lady by their side. So this really is a thing, and it's even like. For me, speaking to Autumn's experience when I started at the studio, and again, I had my own social dance school before I moved to New York. So I have a lot of teaching experience, a lot. And when I came to our school and it came time to get back department students to take classes with me, it was an uphill struggle. It's still a struggle for me. And then 4, 5 new white female instructors down the line, I watch them, various levels of ballroom and dance experience, various sizes, various ages. I watch them have the opposite experience. And I'm not down for like, I'm here because I love dance, I love serving people, and I want to make money. So I'm not wanting to find an excuse where one doesn't exist because I want to be prosperous and I take every step I can to create prosperity. But it's just very difficult when you watch it with your own 2 eyes happening because then you can be internalized as there's something wrong with me. I'm not hot enough. Don't have a good personality. I'm untalented. You know,
well, you're not. It's not. I feel like I want to be more clear about what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't have an issue with being black in your studios and having lessons. I'm saying that the reason there's an issue is a cultural base. If every new teacher comes in the door and the management and the owners have to make room for you with the back department students, that's it. We have to say that anybody who comes in, male or female, can dance with you and you'll be just fine. If that room is not being made for you, it's not because you're necessarily black unless your owner has a problem with that. You understand what I'm saying?
But if the students...
No, you can make room. There's no person who comes
I feel like it's okay. I feel like it's okay for us to disagree. I'm going to keep repeating it. I think it's okay for us to disagree because I don't think it's okay to discount people's experience. Because I'm telling you, there's no way that I would be making it up. And I know that my studio doesn't have a problem with the fact that I'm black.
Right.
It's the students. It's the culture of America. It's not limited to this one experience.
I'm gonna hop in.
Go ahead, Harrison.
I think I can summarize what everyone is saying. Just that's what I do. And also, that's my job. But also, we're coming to the end of our roundtable. Unfortunately, I know it's already that time. So I'm going to summarize some thoughts, and then I'm going to let everybody have their some final words. But what I feel and I think, in particular with Lauren and what Autumn are saying, and this is actually, it harkens back to something, always calling back, to I think what Ron, Christy, and you, Jamila, said in the last roundtable, is that we as Black people, no matter what our industry is, no matter what our job is, no matter what we're doing, even just kind of in day-to-day life, we have to be exceptional in every facet of our being. No matter what, like, no matter what it is that we are attempting to do, we have to do it at not just like a 10, we have to do it at a 15 or a 20 to be recognized as good. So I want to acknowledge and encourage everyone to hear the realities of our instructor, of like Black professionals like Lauren and Autumn, and realize that, you know, like it might not be something that you necessarily experience in your day-to-day life, but it doesn't make it not real, especially in that person's life. I mean, like for me, I know for a fact that there are living in Boston, which is weird to say, you know, think we're like a liberal capital of the world, but we're really not. We're one of the most segregated cities in the entire United States. But even I've noticed in my time working here that there is we are a very inclusive studio, but there still is kind of a line of segregation amongst our students at parties and group classes, wherein I noticed that our Black students tend to be asked to dance last, right? Where like, and the people who are, if they're not being asked last, the only people who are really asking them to dance are the instructors, right? And the reason why, in those cases, the reason why they're being asked last is because we've just danced with them, and, you know, we can't dance with the same people multiple times over and over and over. But so like these issues of these racial issues that exist in our studios are real and valid things. Even though some of them might be, and I would agree with you, Jamila, that some of them, it largely can be just like a cultural thing within the studio. And it might not necessarily be tied to race per se, but it can be entirely just the culture of the studio. And so I want to, you know, it's very easy for us as, I think, Black people to fall into, oh, it's because of the color of my skin rhetoric, when it might not. But at the same time, you know, when you call a spade, and like in Lauren, your situation, I'm very familiar with your situation because I know your studio, I know the people who work there. So I can attest to the fact that can be entirely true. But with that being said, my final words on today, I'm going to have another couple final words because this is my show, y'all, so I get to do that, are, you know, again, coming from the bottom of my heart, I hope that everybody that is listening realizes that this is not a trend. Oh, this is not just like a singular moment in time, right? The Black Lives Matter movement and everything that we are fighting for and everything that we're talking about, this is a lifelong battle, right? We are fighting for, it's weird to say, we are fighting for the very soul of our nation, but we are fighting for the very soul and lives of Black people. Jamila said it earlier that it's kind of scary that the five of us here, any of the other past panelists, anybody that has been on the Next to the Floor podcast, we could very easily be the next hashtag. We could very easily not be here come November because of the current political and cultural climate of the United States. And I hope people take the words that we're saying and the ideas that we're bringing forth very seriously and realize that this is real. That Black Lives Matter is not a trend. It's not some divisive thing. We are literally just asking people to realize that we are alive, and we exist in this world, and treat us like people. So that's what I have to say on that. I hope I was able to summarize things correctly, or relatively astutely. I'm going to let Jamila, you go ahead. I'm going to give you the floor.
I want to be clear. I believe that you're having issues in your studio because you're Black. That's not what, I'm not disagreeing on that. Your experience is not what you're saying it is. I agree with you. I'm saying the culture can still be changed within that studio to not mimic the outside world. If you talk to your owners or your managers and explain to them how they are kicking you out of the space, they need to make room for you. You need to talk to them and say, hey, I'm being wedged out and I feel like it's because this. And if they don't start making room for you, the students never will. So if they start making room for you, you'll notice. The students will start making room for you. Someone has to stand up for you to start it. It's not going to just be because you made it more better. Like, you have to do your part too, and then ask them, what do I need to do to help you make room for me? I believe your experience is real because you're Black. I do not want to discredit that in any way. I 100% believe you. But they haven't made room for you to make it easier, is what I'm saying. So you have to talk to them and say, I need your support on being seen here because I'm getting pushed out, because I feel, because I know it's this. You see, does that make sense, what I'm saying now? Just to clear, it summarizes that better.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And they're helping to keep the culture the way it is. But you can create a culture within the studio that does not mimic the outside world.
Right.
It's very easy. I mean, does it take work? Yes. But it's not complicated work. It really isn't. Once someone gets started, that wheel going, it goes. They need to make room for you.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to be left out.
And you have to, in a sense, you kind of have to like, it's not even that they have to make room. You have to make them make room for you.
Come with a game plan. Like, look, I got this idea. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. What can we do to help me make that happen, to help make this better? Because they want you to make money too. Because if you make money, they make money.
They make money.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody's in it to not make money. I'm just saying, that's a job. We all want to be successful. But come with a plan. But tell them, hey, you haven't made room for me. And these other girls are coming in, making this room. Now, some girls come in a lot more flirtatious. And that's a whole different conversation. So if a girl came in underneath you, was all over somebody, you ain't got to play that game to be successful. Because I wouldn't do it. And I own a studio now. Just a side note. I can't play that game. I just can't do it. I'm not going to be that girl.
I will not.
I will not. I mean, you earn the right to be there.
Yeah. Jamila, aside from that point of clarification, did you have any last words you wanted to share?
I'm glad you asked her.
I feel like I said everything I was going to say. I'm going to sum it up. I mean, I do think that as Black people in America, it's the first time we've ever been here. We've never been here before. We've never had the support of so many non-Black Americans, and maybe who weren't Black in America, to be by our side. And I truly believe that even if you don't like who we are, you got to vote to make the next stage happen so we can make room for the bigger dreams. I do think we're bigger and better than we deserve to be treated currently. And right now we have the current thing in front of us is the next stage. And if you don't vote, you are voting by not voting. I think that's a real thing.
Let's see.
That's
thank you. I'm going to, I'm just going to go down the line. Alyssa, would you like to share your final thoughts?
So final thoughts for me, just kind of going through or trying to go through each of the points that we touched on today. I am somebody who believes in voting because we did what we had to do, both as women and as African Americans, to get the right to vote in both situations. So I'm going to. I feel like for everybody else who is planning to vote, do what you, I'm going to say this loosely, do what you feel is best or what you know is best to do. And even if the election goes, we have a change in regime when the election happens, that doesn't mean that we let our foot off the gas.
Yes.
We need to keep like that. That's just, this is like ringing the doorbell to get in the house kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, just because they opened it, that doesn't mean that we stand there and just like, all right, well, you paid attention to me for that split second. You keep pushing and we get our asses in that house. And that's we got to remember to do that, because I feel like a lot of people have become complacent in the change that's happened so far, though it's minimal in my opinion. We have to remember to keep pushing past November 3rd. As far as being in the service industry, I definitely feel like, as many of us have alluded to today, we are, in my opinion, the supreme beings. We have the ability to do all the things and make all the changes that we want to see happen as far as the service industries in general, but specifically for dance. And then obviously for me being in hospitality, to keep fighting, keep advocating for yourself and for the people that look like you.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the dance world specifically, I appreciate the feedback and stuff that I'm getting from you guys because I'm the youngest or the newest member of this family on this panel. And so like, I genuinely appreciate it. There's like a fire in me at this point that I'm like, let me go into the studio on Monday and let them know what's up. Like, that's like really how I'm feeling right now. But I think that, you know, it starts with us. We all have had experiences and have similar opinions and how to, you know, deal with these experiences. And I think that like we just have to keep advocating for ourselves and for those that might come after us that look like us, look like our sisters, cousins, mothers, you know, that kind of thing. And like, even if we get the recognition that we're looking for, make sure that it continues past us as well.
Thank you for all of that, Alyssa. That was very astute. I love that. I just love all of you so much. Okay. Autumn, do you want me to come to you next or do you want me to go to Lauren?
I can go next.
Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Like unless Lauren absolutely wants to go next. Exactly. Yeah. I think I like truly I love these conversations. They are the highlight of my day. And I want to make sure that it's clear that I try not to seem like I'm coming off competitive or not competitive. What's the word I'm looking for? Argumentative, even though I shouldn't be trying to actively not come off argumentative. But what I really want there to always be is, for me, clarity. And that's how I gain my clarity, is by like asking questions the way that I do, or making statements the way that I do. So Jamila, I love everything. Like everything that you said, especially in that synopsis, was like right on point and right on frequency with what I was thinking. And it really spoke to me. I think in addition to that, I think that as far as voting, I want people to, I think of voting like how I think about the rest of my life, and that I think that just even the way that I got married, the situation that I was in before that, I'm not going to get into this long explanation of my personal story. My husband and I have a corporation, and we are actively working toward, my husband's from Haiti. And so we are doing what we feel like we need to do. And I feel like everything that I've done so far in my life has been this magical manifestation of putting images out on a vision board and actively looking at it every day, making the steps to making it happen. And for me, even working with Arthur Murray has been a miracle, because I've literally dreamed of working for this company. Like, you guys, if I could tell you, you would know and it would make sense, but I'm going to have to summarize. And so I really believe truly in my being that I apply that same logic to the voting and to the political system. And I understand what people say when they say, you know, if you're not voting, you know, you are voting, or, you know, my ancestors fought. I totally agree. And I want people to know that it's okay to agree to disagree, and to say, you know what, but this for me, this just feels right. This feels like, for you, that feels right. That feels like the path. For me, this feels right. Feels like the path. And I can only do what is true and what is right for me and for my brown son and my 2 brown daughters, because every day I worry about their lives and the future of their generations and generations to come. So I want people to understand that while no, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I think someone asked a question about, like, okay, if you don't vote, what are your other options? I don't know yet, but I'm excited about the possibility of figuring it out and creating something different. So,
thank you. That was a brilliant summary, and I think there's a lot in there that speaks to, you know, being true to who you are as a person, right? And like identifying that, you know, if something truly doesn't feel, and I'm going to agree with you on that one, Autumn. Like, you know, if something truly just like deep down in your spirit of spirit and heart of heart, soul of souls doesn't feel good, right? Don't do it. But I'm going to move to our final panelist, Lauren.
Yay! Hopefully my internet will stay on long enough to say bye to everyone. But first and foremost, I wanted to say, Jamila, I am like crazy proud of you. Like seriously, when I saw you on the last panelist and I found out that there was a Black woman franchisee, I cannot explain to you how much I was literally bursting with pride. I wasn't even on that panel, but I was so excited about, you know, all the panelists, but really to hear from you and hear about your experience. So I couldn't tear my ears away from that. So I'm just so proud and like honored to be here with you guys today. And actually echoing a little bit what Autumn said, like, I am really thankful for this amazingly invigorating conversation because I love the opportunity to think beyond what my mind or my own experiences or what, you know, I know. And I'm thankful. Actually, it's super enriching to understand other perspectives and experiences. And it's, to me, as somebody who likes to be creative, it just like adds fuel to that fire. Like it's expansive. So I truly found this conversation to be expansive, and that just is really a huge blessing. I also wanted to say that I really love this company, this wonderful Arthur Murray universe. And on the other hand, I have very strong thoughts and opinions about how it can be an even more equitable and wonderful universe. So I hope, like, you know, for me personally, saying anything about that world comes from a place of I care about it and I want that world to be awesome and the people who are in it to also be awesome. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I just really like thank you, Harrison, for putting together the ladies and Gary for getting me out of backseat literally 50 times. So yeah, that was really a blessing. So thanks to you all.
No problem. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I know this is our first time using this platform, and we're all mostly, except for Jamila. Jamila was perfect in every single way, shape, and form. But we were all experiencing, you know, all sorts of internet issues and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what you got going on out there in California, but
we want it.
Yeah, we want it. Okay. We want it everywhere else across the world. Yeah, I want to reemphasize to everyone watching that, you know, I know at times during the panel, in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, things seemed like they were like heated or like argumentative and things along those lines. But you know, truly in the spirit of us trying to advance ourselves as Black people, right? There is a lot of passion there, right? You know, and with passion comes emotion. With passion comes what sounds like argument, but truly, this is there's only love here in this roundtable. And I'm so grateful and thankful to have you four lovely ladies in my life, and to be able to hear your voices and to give you guys, truthfully, like I really wanted to do this to give you guys the platform to be able to speak to your experience as women in the company, because, you know, as we said earlier, it's infinitely easier for me to in the company, just in general. Like I have a much easier time across the board, and I'm willing to admit that. So I just want to thank you all for everything that you do. Gary, thank you. Thanks, Gary, for Yay, Gary. For helping organize everything. He's the one in the back clicking all the buttons that are, highlighting different cameras and putting logos and removing things. And so he's been an instrumental part in making this all happen. And that's the Next of the Four Ballroom Dance and Race Roundtable Part 3. Whoa, Black Betty, Ramble-am. Right? Make sure you tune in next Saturday for our next episode of Next to the Floor. It's at 6:00 on Saturday. Whoa, yes, 6. Well, not for a round table. This is just going to be, like a small conversation with me and another Black professional.
Podcast.
Really excited. Podcast situation. But the next roundtable is going to be at the end of September. Wouldn't you know it? It's probably not going to be on a Saturday, just so everybody who's watching and listening knows, just because it turns out on the 26th we have an event at the studio. So we're going to find a different day at the end of the month to do it. So thank you all so much for being here, sharing your voices. Remember, it costs you $0 to be a nice and good person. We are here to educate you, but if you want us to teach you something, you got to pay us. And, make sure you love each other. Thank you all so much, and good night. Gary, take us out of here.